Gene Ralston, Generalston. We're from Kuna, Idaho, which is near Boise. The family liaison reached out to us a week or so ago, not too long after the accident, and asked if we could come and help. And at the time, we hadn't expected to be going on any searches because of the virus situation. But after contacting the sheriff's office and talking with some other people, they felt confident that they had a very good place last seen and that we would be reasonably successful quickly. So we decided to go ahead and come. We hadn't really initially planned on doing much searching yesterday, but we got here early enough to where we were able to go out and look at the area and develop a search strategy. And fortunately, within 18 minutes of beginning the search, we had our first image. We typically run the same track line in the opposite direction to get an accurate location information because the towfish is back behind the GPS on the boat. And in attempting to do that, the GPS signal was bouncing around quite erratically. So it took us a while to really nail down where he was. We put a marker down on the bottom and eventually were able to get an image of the marker in relation to him, so we knew which direction and distance we needed to move the marker. So we just picked it up and started moving it until we had it close to him. In 1983, I recovered a lady who had gone into the Boise River, and the family sent us an incredible thank you. At that time, like most people, you don't really know what it means to have someone lost in the water and nobody be able to find them. And it really brought it home to us that was something that we had the boats and equipment and so forth to go on the water to search for people. When we saw this equipment operate on a search in 1999, we were very impressed with the technology, and it took us a year to finally have our own system operational. Within the first 3 weeks, we found our first drowning victim using the equipment. That family in Utah has stayed very close friends with us, almost like family, in fact, inviting us to one of their daughter's weddings last summer. So those kinds of interactions back from the family really mean a lot to us, and it shows us how appreciative families can be. Well, originally we were environmental consultants specializing in water-related environmental issues, so we know a lot about how water acts, the physics of water and whatnot. And we volunteered the use of our boat on a search in 1983 before we ever had this equipment. And in 1999, we were able to view the equipment operating on a search in Oregon, and we're so impressed by the technology, we decided that it was something we needed to have to offer to people in these situations. In 2000, we recovered our first drowning victim shortly after having the equipment operational, and the family of that young man still are friends with us to this day, some 20 years later. We decided that it would be a mom and pop operation, if you will, versus a nonprofit or charge families for the equipment and expenses and whatnot, everything, time and materials. That didn't come out real good. Anyway, we decided that our method of operation would be to charge only for our expenses for a trip and not charge anything for a daily fee or that type of thing. And that's pretty much how we operate. We don't make any money doing this. We don't advertise. We let people come to us. Some people doing what we do, the very first thing you'll see on their webpage is a GoFundMe to collect money to help them do what they do, which is fine, but you'll never see us doing that for that reason. Side scan sonar uses sound to create images of things, much like ultrasound, medical ultrasound, in that it doesn't require light, but you can think of sound as light, that it transmits a beam of sound and then it reflects off the bottom and images objects on the bottom. Anything on the bottom will typically have a distinct shadow behind it. That's one of the benefits of having a towed system versus a system such as the local folks here and many other agencies have, which has the transducer on the transom, which is surface mounted basically, so it does not create the shadows that a towed system does. Makes it much more effective. We've worked in as deep as 850 feet before, as long as we have enough cable to get to those depths. So depth doesn't really matter to us. But the technology is advancing. The newer systems are coming out, our digital systems. They're somewhat better than the analog system that we have. And it's truly remarkable equipment. We can search a swath of up to 164 feet on one side of the transducer, which is on good clean bottom conditions. We can image something the size of a 6-foot person. Here we were searching a much shorter range because the bottom was not particularly clean and smooth. There's a lot of undulations and irregular terrain. So we had to search a range of 98 feet, but we were still able to make a very good image of the person on our first pass.
So, Gene, you said this is the towfish.
This is the towfish that we tow on the umbilical, 10 to 15 feet off of the bottom, and the transducer is inside the stainless housing. The housing and the complete system weighs about 150 pounds, so it'll hang reasonably straight under the boat as long as it's not real deep, but it does have some layback when we're in deeper water and going faster. But the sound is transmitted and received back through these transducers in the windows of the housing.
And so you're saying you tow this behind the boat?
We tow this off of the bow. We have pulleys that go up to the davit boom here. This one swings down to keep the cable away from the hull. And being fairly heavy, it tows reasonably well, not too far behind the boat. So we know pretty much where it is. We can control it a lot better. We have a variable speed, remote controlled hoist that we can control from inside the cabin as we're viewing the images.
And what would you say the price tag for all the equipment that you use? How much do you think you guys spent on the equipment?
Well, we had this tow body stainless device made by a friend of ours in Seattle a number of years ago, and he didn't charge us anything more than materials and a little bit for labor. So what we have in the system is not very reflective of what it would cost today, because we built a lot of the superstructure and the winch system that we're using. And so, but a nonprofit organization was formed in Newfoundland a few years ago, and they spent over $287,000 duplicating what we have. So that gives you a little bit of an idea what the boat and the equipment and everything would cost.
Can I ask maybe one more time in just kind of a different way, but what does it mean to you when you're able to locate a person that's lost and give that opportunity of closure to a family?
Well, it's very rewarding, to say the least. It's hard to describe in words because I have been involved in 2 boating accidents, both of which I nearly drowned. I was very lucky that I did not. And I can't imagine what it would be like for my parents at that time to not be able to find me in a body of water. And so I can empathize with people who have lost someone, and it makes us feel very good to be able to help them and relieve that pain and suffering that they've been going through ever since the incident happened.